Hail Frank, hail John Toehill. How you guys doing tonight? You give it a second to see if anybody else pops up before we start. Hail Michael Saunders, how you doing tonight? How you brothers doing tonight? Okay. Give it just a couple more seconds and I'm going to go ahead and get started. Hail Bartholomew. Alright, here we go. So, what I'm going to be talking about is the binding of the Fenris wolf and my take on this. As I've said, hail brother, hail John. How you doing, Tom? Alright, so one thing I always try to reiterate when I speak is that the way that I perceive this and the way that I apply it to my life does not necessarily mean this is how you have to use it, or yes, free time now. Doesn't mean that's the way you have to use it, or even that's the way that you understand it. You know, the one awesome thing about this belief system and this way of life is there is no dogmatic beliefs. You know, you're not forced to believe anything per se. Of course, there's things that are, you know, commonly agreed upon, and you know, we live by that, but it doesn't have to mean the same thing to everybody. You know, in fact, I can read something today and then read it in 2 weeks and it won't mean anything to me, or it'll mean something completely different. It's all about what you're going through and what you've been through as to how you're going to take this. So before I start talking about this, I'm going to just tell you a little something so you can explain, so you can understand maybe why I perceive it the way I do. When I study the binding of the Fenris wolf, esoterically or symbolically, to me it's talking about the chaining of your ego. For me, I've always been a materialistic kind of person, I guess. You know, I've never been able to really have everything I wanted when I was a kid. I guess, you know, I didn't have all the money that maybe some people had. So, of course, when I became old enough to get money, I tried to get everything I could, and it really held me back in my life. So that's one reason I take it like this. Alright, so this story is out of the Giffelgetting. It's chapter 34, and they talk about the binding of the Fenris wolf. Alright, if you don't know who the Fenris wolf is, he's one of Loki's children. Big wolf. They bring him to Asgard after prophecies of the upcoming doom and destruction that he's going to play upon the Aesir. They have, you know, a council, and the gods and goddesses decide they need to chain him up. The All-Father Wotan sends Skirnir, who is Freyr's messenger, to, you know, the world of the Dark Elves to talk to the dwarves to get a fetter being made. The reason they did that was because they made a first fetter called Loathing. They put it on the Fenris wolf. He shook once, it shattered, and pieces went flying everywhere. So they talked, they said, okay, we'll make another one. They made a second one, twice as thick. It was named Dromi. They put it on the Fenris wolf. Again, he shook it off, bit it, slammed it onto the earth, and it broke again. So they sent Skirnir to the world of the Dark Elves. One thing I found funny studying this is phonetically broke down, Skirnir means the bright one. So in my mind, that's the spark of divinity within me, teaching myself that I need to evolve, that I need to control my base emotions so I can positively gain. Hell, Eric Callahan, how you doing? I'm not going to get into too many phonetics tonight, but I just find that funny that Wotan would send phrase messenger. But if you look into the meaning of his name, it makes sense. Anyway, so when they get to the world of the dwarves, the world of the dark elves, they talk to him about making this fetter strong enough to hold the Fenris wolf. So they go make this fetter. They make this fetter out of 6 ingredients that are pretty much impossible to find. You can't just go out and grab them. The 6 ingredients are the sinew of a bear, the spittle of a bird, the breath of a fish, the roots of a mountain, the beard of a woman, and the footfalls of a cat. So when they bring this fetter out, it's said that it's smooth as ribbon, smooth and soft as silken ribbon, but strong as you've ever seen before. So they bring this back. Hail, Mike. Have a good night, brother. So they bring this fetter back and they decide that they're going to try to chain the wolf on. So they take the Fenris wolf out to a lake called Amsvartnir, to an island called Lyngvi. And they decide they're going to fetter the wolf here. Well, as soon as the Fenris wolf sees this chain, he says there's no need for him to even try to break it. Look at it. I won't get any points for this. You know, to make yourself famous, you have to do something strong. You have to do something incredible. There's nothing incredible about this. But after further investigation, it looks like it may be using magic. And I don't trust this. I don't want it around me. I'm not going to do it unless one of you puts your hand in my mouth. The gods convene, they talk. Nobody seems to want to do it until Tyr sends his right hand out. Hail, Jonathan Thurber. Tyr takes his right hand out, his sword hand, which was, you know, that was a man's livelihood. That was a man's honor back in those days. Your sword hand, your fighting hand. Have a great night. And he decides that he will put it in the wolf's mouth, knowing what is going to happen. Knowing this wolf will not get out, he decides he's going to sacrifice his hand anyway for the betterment of his people. He understands that if he doesn't get this wolf fettered, the prophecies foretell death and destruction against the Aesir. So he sacrifices his hand. The fetter closes. Everybody laughs except Tyr, who loses his hand. So the wolf is howling, barking, trying to bite him. Well, they catch him with his jaws open and they stick a sword in his mouth. As he's howling, he's drooling, and that causes the river Vaughn, which is expectation. Alright, now, esoterically speaking, when I think of the 6 ingredients that are used to make this binding Gleipnir, they all mean something to me. And the funny thing is, you can't, physically go out and get these ingredients, but if you think about them, they're obstacles or things that we think about or go through in everyday life. So I'm just going to give you a quick take on what I think they mean to me and how I use them in my life. The sinews of a bear. The sinews of a bear is the strength within us that we have to feed to nourish. Alright, everybody's born with sinew. But in order to grow stronger, in order for this to strengthen, to hold your muscle and your bone density as we grow, we have to feed it. We have to exercise it. Hail, Stephen Rankin. We have to exercise this. We have to feed it. So this is a continuous thing. It's not just a one-hit thing, You're born with it, yes, but you've got to put work into it to gain something out of it. The second ingredient, the spittle of a bird. To me, that is the ability to grow from small bites to larger bites. When we are born, or when we first start studying something, when we first begin exercising, you have to start small. You can't just jump in head first. You're going to crash and burn. Just like a child when they're learning how to walk. You got to crawl first. You roll over, you get up on your knees, you crawl, you stand up, you fall, you stand up, you walk, you run. You've got to go little by little. That's just with us. When we decide we've got to do something, you've got to take it slow. You've got to plan it out. You've got to figure out why you're doing it. What are you going to accomplish doing it? And then when you start doing it, You've got to get better and better at it. The breath of a fish. This is the ability to let life glide by us sometimes. Have you ever seen a fish when they swim and when they breathe? These little bubbles, that they just kind of float right over their back. They just go right next to them. It's kind of like sometimes in life, obstacles or situations come upon us, and it's not always best to hit them head on. It's not always best to fight the situation head on, without taking a minute to sit back and think it over and say, wait a minute, there could be a better way I can do this. To me, that's a very big ingredient in my life. I've always been one to act before I think, and it's caused me to give, the state about 10 years. So me trying to focus on that is very important to me. The next ingredient, the roots of a mountain. Everybody knows a mountain doesn't grow like a tree. There's no roots. But for us, the roots of a mountain symbolize our history, our culture, our heritage, our ancestors, our forefathers. Everything that we've been through to get to where we are now. Our traditions that have been passed down, our lore that have been passed down. That is our roots. That is the foundation of our mountain. And if we don't know what they are, where do we go from there? How do we continue to stand? The next ingredient is the beard of a woman. The only thing I can think of that is being able to find the humor in every situation, or the ability to overcome any obstacle that's thrown at you. Typically speaking, I don't think a woman would like to have a beard, so that would be an unnecessary struggle for a woman. But if she doesn't want it, you know what she's going to do? She's going to take care of it on a day-to-day basis. Whatever she has to do to get rid of it, she's going to cleanse herself from that. That's what we need to do. On an everyday basis, we need to find the humor in the way to get around these unnecessary struggles and problems that are put in our path. We need to find a way to overcome it. And not only to overcome it, but to find humor in the situation. Like, man, you tried to fucking break me, but you don't know. I don't crumble. I get past this too. You got to just look back and laugh at it. Like, look at you. If you wouldn't have done that, I might not be as strong as I am now. You tried to make me fail, and I grew from it. You've got to find the humor in everything. The last ingredient is the footfalls of a cat. The only thing that pops into my mind is being cunning with your enemies and being quiet with your actions. Not everybody has to know what your plans are at the same time. Not everybody needs to know what you're doing. And again, you don't have to hit every situation head on. Be cunning with your enemies, as their goal is your destruction. Be quiet with your actions. You ever seen a cat when they hunt? They creep up around and they stalk up behind you and they pounce. Everybody doesn't need to know what you're doing. What if you make an oath to somebody? What if you speak something into an existence and you never get to accomplish it? Now people are going to start looking at you like, oh, when this dude says something, you never know if he's going to do it. How can I rely on this? How do I know this is ever going to happen? How can you start believing yourself when you set goals for yourself and you don't accomplish them? The next time you set a goal, it's going to be that much harder to accomplish because you are accepting that you're not going to stick through to your word. You're going to build yourself up immune to that. And before you know it, you're just not going to care anymore. Now, how does this replay, or how can I apply this to my life in an everyday basis? I've got a really big problem with my ego. And for us, as Odinists or Wotanists, that are walking this life, that are living this life, this is a path of self-evolution by higher discipline, by strength. This is not for the lazy, this is not for the weak. So at every day, it's a daily battle to overcome the situations that are placed in front of us. Every day it's a battle to become more physically fit, to be more mentally capable, to be more knowledgeable, to learn something, to live in a way that allows you to help the next man, to help your descendants, to help your folk, because this is what it's about for us. If we are focused on our ego, which is only going to limit our evolution, if we continually focus on our ego, the amount of growth that we are going to receive is going to be a lot lower. You know, we've got to find a way to get past this ego. And for me, this myth teaches me that I have to sacrifice a part of myself, as Tyr gave his hand to chain up the Fenris wolf, who symbolically to me symbolizes the ego. I've got to give something of myself up to gain something else, to protect my people, which is our ultimate goal, which is my ultimate goal. I want to secure the existence of my people in the future for white children. That's what I want to do. That is my life's mission. And to do that, I need to give a part of myself up so I can give the rest of myself to my folk. And that's how I take this myth. Thanks for listening tonight. Have a great time.